folks, welcome back to Strange New Show. Keith and Mike watch Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Today we are talking about Season 2, Episode 4, Among the Lotus Eaters. How's it going, Mike?
I am Mike Indeglio. I co-host the podcast.
Yes, I am Keith Varney. I make mouth noises for a long time every single week.
Jen came home the other day, and she heard me. She's like, "Have you been singing?" I was like, "Why?" She's like, "You sound tired, like when you've been singing a lot." I was like, No. I just talk all day. One person.
That's true. Yeah, no, we do this a lot, but it's really fun. I'm very much enjoying doing all of this nonsense with you, and I'm excited to talk about this episode. It's funny because it is an interesting sensation to be watching these shows for the first time. Because on the Deep Space Nine show or on the Practice show or other stuff, I've seen these episodes many times and I've had years to think them through and see how I feel about them and have the context change as I get older and the society's different. But this one, I have less than 24 hours to wrap my head around these episodes, which is interesting. It's a totally different feel to the show. And I'm curious, when we do our review show in 20 years, reviewing ourselves, whether or not we're going to have different feelings.
Yeah, I'm also, Keith and I were chatting a little bit before we started today. I'm curious, and I guess this goes for everything, as the summer is quickly ending. It's feeling a little more autumnal outside here on the East Coast. I don't know how long that'll last, but yeah,
Nope.
No humidity out there. No humidity in like 70 degrees. Anyway, my point is, Big Brother, one of my favorite shows, is starting a little bit late, and I'm thinking about the fall lineups and how there won't be any new television. And then what about shows that would have to start pre-production now, like Season 3 of Strange New Worlds, if we're going to have
it a while
by next summer? And I don't see it, Keith. It's going to be an interesting. So once we wrap Season 2 here of Strange New Show, it's gonna be a while.
I mean, luckily we have 4 more seasons of Deep Space Nine, 7 more seasons of Voyager, 4 of Enterprise, and we might have to go back and do Next Gen.
Time out. I think, let's see, we did the Practice, which Keith talked to me about. We're doing Deep Space Nine, which Keith talked to me about, and we're doing Strange New Show, which the Patreons of Keith told me to do. So it stands to reason that don't I get to pick the next property?
Wow. I mean, luckily Quantum Leap only lasted for 4 seasons?
Yeah, but I don't know if I would go to Quantum. That's been it's been tread.
All right, well, now I'm curious. What would it be? What if Mike could pick a show for us to waste everybody's time with? What would it be?
I don't know. Maybe we should go back to the world of procedural drama. I was thinking. See, it's always very obscure. I was gonna say, because there's only a couple seasons. What if we did a limited run of The Commish? Michael Chiklis in The Commish. What could be more niche?
Was it even good?
I enjoyed it, but it's been a very long time. I was a child when I watched it.
I think you need to watch an episode and then think through, do I want to talk about this for 90 minutes for the next year and a half?
I'm going to start... well, we've got a lot of other balls we've discussed, too, about toys and different things, too. So we got a lot to chew on anyway, but let's keep... We gotta focus.
All right, let's move forward. All right. So let's talk about your viewer ratings from last week's episode, tomorrow.
Oh, Keith, before we do that, are you suffering from some sort of radiation amnesia? This is Season 2, Episode 4, Keith.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't... That's true. That's
Trivial
bad.
Triva?
Trivial Triva. Attention to detail is definitely my strong suit. Like, if I ever had to do another job application, be like, I'm super creative, I work really hard, I work fast, it's interesting, it's great, but my attention to detail is terrible.
As long as there's just, look, if you got an intern to check your work, that's fine, you're good.
That's true. I think that's what we need. I think we need an intern here at the...
We don't pay well, but the snacks, primo.
It is unpaid, and you
I've
can
got
have
2
whatever the
boxes
cat
of
doesn't
Skinny
eat.
Cow ice cream sandwiches in the fridge. Okay.
Oh, well, Skinny Cow though. I mean, come on, that's no fun.
Not because they're low cal, Keith. Skinny Cow tastes great. The cookie
Does it?
part of the ice cream sandwich of Skinny Cow is superior to anything.
All right.
Maybe not
all
anything, but
Right. Okay. Well, let us please mercifully do this. So last week's, there it is. I fixed it.
box, baby.
Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. Jason Moak gave it a 98. Loving those time travels. Kevin Miles with a 93 and Harry Pothead with a 90. We had a lot of interesting discussion on there as well. Apparently they did have holodecks I didn't think of. We also pointed out that this kind of puts this entire series in an alternate timeline from our main timeline, which I guess it technically does, which is interesting. So like we're in canon, but not in the same timeline. It's not quite the Kelvin thing. Anyway, fascinating. Join the discussion on the YouTube chat below. We really enjoy chatting with you and getting your ratings and reviews. If you would like us to read your rating and review on the YouTube, just leave us a little super tip, and we'll be happy to read it. I think it's time to get into Among the Lotus Eaters. Let's eat some loti on July 6th, 2023, just weeks ago, did this drop. The top song continued to be the very problematic Morgan Wallen's. This is definitely an improved version. Yeah, thank you very much for that. The top movie was Insidious, The Red Door. Is the Insidious series the one where they find like the film of like murders and that kind of stuff?
No, I think it's like a kid.
Oh, I'm bummed because that first one where they found like the 8mm films of murders, I thought that was so scary. I actually really liked that.
Is that what that is? I thought that was more like let's see. Well, the Rotten Tomato score on this one is 39, so that's not
it's not great.
No, it's not good. It's
It's
an
as
hour
bad
and
as ours.
47 minutes. Can I get a plot summary? No, no information. But it's what's his name? It's Patrick Wilson.
Oh, okay. So it's in like the Annabelle timeline. All right. Well, whatever.
We're assuming. I don't know that that's true. I think he's just like does horror movies now.
He does. Well, you know, he's been he's found a niche.
It's a Blumhouse though, and they're pretty good.
Oh yeah, no, I mean like that, but that series, like they've done, it's like the Conjuring verse.
I don't think it is
9 of those.
I don't think it's the same universe.
Huh. All right. Well,
well,
you know, I'm going to get around to it eventually. But I have had less than a month to watch that film since it came out, and it's not going to happen. Maybe next Halloween, we'll find out.
Keith, do you think I could convince you if I come to you, all right, or if I meet you in New York, will you see the next Exorcist with me? For our Halloween Geekly episode.
Sure. I mean, no, I like the Exorcist series. We just recently watched Exorcist 3. Underrated.
I know
Underrated
you're not loving
film.
going to the movies, but maybe. Okay, we'll talk about it on Geekly.
Man, I really love to spend $30 when I don't have to, and I can't pause the movie and pee. Whatever. So, I know I'm
so
such
hard.
a
Yeah, dating's gonna go great for you.
I'd go to the movies with you, but we have to be able to pause it.
You're gonna have to pay for it, and I'm gonna pee a lot.
That's right. That's right. And I do not share popcorn. Anybody want to date me? I'm single. All right, so our weekly world news headline from 20 years previous. Let's pop it up there. Space alien skeletons found in the desert. Very apropos this week.
Yeah, it turns out that one might not be weekly world news at all.
Yeah, except for I dug into that a little bit, and the guy who was given all the exciting stuff, that guy's a kook.
Guess today's weight of world's fattest cat. I feel like I'm being shamed all week.
I sure do, yeah. How much has she gained? Wow, I mean, are they just like keeping up, like breaking news on what the cat's eating?
Tuxie also has, not only this, Keith, not only have they shamed me for we feed him too much, but he also has obesity-induced dandruff. Because he's too fat and he can't groom himself, so...
Oh, dude.
He's 14 pounds, which doesn't sound too bad.
No, dude, he's fat. You got to put him on a diet.
He is
Your
on
cats,
a diet. He is
you
on a
need
diet.
to shut it down.
He's
it's the same
best
thing with
cat.
me.
He's the sweetest cat. Don't you dare shame him.
But I'm the best and I'm the sweetest, and I need to have a.
But I don't
an
share
automated
popcorn,
feeder
and I
too.
gotta pee.
Wow, what a great show!
Yeah.
No wonder we don't get well reviewed. Okay.
Did we get bad reviewed?
On the podcast, somebody gave us a 1.
Oh yeah. Well,
It's very. I'm
know
not
what?
salty about it. It's fine. So this episode,
just don't review it. If it's below a 3, I wouldn't even go review
you
it.
want to take time out of your day to say this thing sucks?
Oh, now I just
that's
want
all
to
we're
suck
doing.
harder. Now I just want to suck
That's
harder.
all we're doing. We can take time out of our day to. All right, whatever. So this episode, Among the Lotus Eater, was directed by Eduardo Sanchez. We can put up the about the episode. I need to do it because that's how I know the time codes.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because I don't watch it. I just scroll for the time codes. It's directed by Eduardo Sanchez. This is the only episode that he has directed thus far. But speaking of horror films and interesting trivia, did you know that he directed the Blair Witch Project?
The OG?
The OG, along with several other horror properties. Done a fair amount of work.
That's cool. I love that first Blair Witch was just a masterpiece.
Also directed the sequel. This was written by Kirsten Beyer, who wrote on Picard and Disco, and Davy Perez, who last wrote on this show, All Those Who Wander. And you want to know people who have chosen out of the goodness of their heart to wander over to patreon.com/K&M. Mike, there's some fine people that deserve our recognition, and you need to tell other people, entice other people to go and join them.
Folks, these are the soldiers who are not wandering the desert. They are not lost, so they don't need to be brought home because they are already safely at home with their totem.
And we hope they lose their memories and forget to turn it off.
Yes, they get to watch me watch every episode of the show, which I guess in some ways saves you that Paramount Plus subscription. Additionally...
Shh, quiet.
Oh, yeah, but I pay it. But otherwise, we watch all kinds of other stuff. Some of the animated series, TNG on occasion. We do family picnics. We did Star Trek V. We do AMA. We give you some swags on occasion. There's all kinds of stuff there now. But most importantly, get to chat with these fine folks who have fun things to say and are really great people. And you also get to produce our show. We're just a fledgling little small business hurting. We need your good reviews. We need your good juju. Brian Kimball, Beer Sock, Casey Clark, Jason Moe.
Weird.
Andrew Hayes, Jorge Navoa, and the mysterious household just walking around, bopping and booping to my dulcet tones on her headphones while she does her stuff. We're big old boo shivs. Charles Babbage,
Jesus.
Richard Coleman. Smoke me if you got him, Harry Pothead, CRM Productions, Nikolay Ivanovich, Lobachevsky, The Illusions at Noon, Steve Brown, YouTube viewer. People will send us stuff in the mail. We got JD Makes, Colin Dagan, Chris Mitchell with CRM, Pat, and Joshua Cronin, who's giving you all the looks as he heads off to the Vegas Star Trek convention. We say, more power to you, Joshua. Make sure to report it and let us know how it goes. And spread the good word of K&M. And you can join the team at patreon.com/K&M.
All right, thank you for that. I mean, I don't know how you could possibly turn that down. It's really good. I'm messaging a patron right this very minute.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so you know what it's time for? Something else I spell wrong. It's a little segment we call.
Now Keith, waste your time
With what?
with trivial trivia.
All right, so a lot of this episode deals with tinnitus or tinnitus, depending on how you pronounce it, and which, to be fair, the sound effect was both very realistic, but also very annoying and difficult to listen to. I'm glad that I do not suffer from it, but my father does, and Jillian does, and so when I played it, I winced. It's not great. But anyway,
Also, The Sound of Metal was a film with Riz Ahmed, won a couple Academy Awards. Does a great sound design to kind of help even remotely give the experience of that the extreme tinnitus and the progressing nature of it. So if
it's awful. It's awful. But there's a Trek connection with this because William Shatner developed a severe and decades-long case of it. During the filming of the original series episode Arena, where he fought the Gorn, where he was required to run through a series of simulated explosions as part of the Gorn attack on the Enterprise landing party. That's and this show is now paying off the Gorn, so it was all worth it for those of us who are not William Shatner. Also, Shatner related, during Pike's last confrontation with Zach, there's a mural on the wall similar to the real-life ancient mosaic of Alexander the Great. And Captain Kirk was partially based on his leadership style. Also, Alexander the Great, according to this piece of trivia on IMDb, so who knows. But also, Shatner played the title role of this in something before being cast as Kirk. Mike, did you see the Oliver Stone Alexander movie?
I'm gonna say no.
You're gonna laugh. I saw that in the theaters, and I know. I used to go in my younger days. But it was so that movie, like, people hated it. It was the what's his nuts and Angelina Jolie, and it ground to a halt. But here this is how generous I was. Like a 3.5-hour movie that like started out great and then just sort of slowly stuttered and like died at the end. I'm like, oh, it's a metaphor for like his work to conquer the East. It slowly sputtered and died and slowed down, just like the movie. It was a metaphor. No, it's just a bad movie.
Well, Oliver Stone, I wouldn't put it past him.
Yeah, well, there you go. All right, so our guest stars this week include Reed Birney as Luke, David Hun as Zach Nguyen, and Melanie Scrofano as Battelle. Pretty cool. We're going to talk more about Reed Birney later.
Yeah, well, he's one of those guys who's in everything, but I feel like I've seen him very recently in something.
Well, many things. Well, because he's a Broadway guy. He's a Tony winner.
I think that's what I'm thinking of.
He's one of us. He's our people.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so shall we hop over and to our screening room? What do you say?
Let's bip and bop. Okay, that didn't really.
That was great.
Really work out the way.
Like 17 different things went wrong at the same time.
Yeah, sure did. Okay, I'm hitting this button now. Thank you. I won't give it away, but I am. All right, let's just roll.
Okay. So we begin this episode with the Enterprise doing some stuff with another ship, allowing Pike and his girlfriend, Captain Battelle, to do some cooking and some cooking. Am I right?
Well, if they can get a minute alone, Keith. Jeesh.
No, because everybody keeps calling, but they've hung a sock on the door, and Battelle has brought... Again, did you have a college code for, like, don't come knocking?
It was like a rubber band, I think we did, but it was seldom needed.
There's no one else in there with you. Doesn't matter. Respect the rubber band.
And then I had I don't know if this is a thing that happens, but at least on tour, apparently if you were hooking up with somebody on tour, you had to bring donuts the next day.
The donuts, sure.
Yeah,
yes.
That was a thing.
Yeah, one of us brought donuts, and it wasn't me.
No, that's true.
Yeah, so there you go. You made up for lost time. Battelle brought a gift. An old keystone that has a find your way home symbolism. I wonder if that's going to play in later. Then
there's a lot of heavy-handedness here and there with some beats. You think Ortega's going to have a part in the big resolution because she keeps getting stonewalled from doing her flying?
Is she going to fly the ship, you think?
I don't know.
But alas, an admiral calls and Battelle has to leave in 10 minutes. Turns out she lost out on a promotion because of the trial of Una that she lost. And Pike is worried that they're not going to be able to have a relationship in 10 and 30-minute spurts. Plus, he's hurting her career.
Also, I'm going to die soon.
Also, I'm gonna die soon. In some ways, I kind of like his logic is pretty sound. And it's a breakup, and she's pissed and leaves and doesn't even get to eat the delicious meal. Then Una calls and says, we have a sensitive communication about Rigel 7. And we learn that 7 years ago, they visited Rigel 7, which has a Bronze Age society, and they got ambushed by surprise, killing 3 of the crew members. And the mission only lasted 4 hours. That's going to be important later. We don't know why yet, but it's going to be important. And recently, the Federation has sent out some surveillance photos and spotted. And I actually really liked the visual of this because it's like truly an oh shit moment. A Federation Delta-shaped hedges. Uh-oh.
Yeah, not good.
They clearly left something behind, and they have contaminated the society, and they have to go back to fix it. So that was interesting. And Pike says, we're going to do this undercover, not like last time, where we wore our uniforms and everybody died. And there's a bug. I don't know if I got it. Everybody leaves except for Una, and she can tell that Pike just done broke up with his girlfriend. And she says, you pushed her away. And he's like, yeah, maybe, I don't know. But we also reinforce that the mission that went horribly wrong 7 years ago, Pike led and royally screwed up and got half of his away team killed. So he needs to go back and clean his mess. So I actually really like this setup. I mean, like we contaminated the timeline sort of a Bronze Age society, and we got to go fix it. It's very very Federation. It's very Prime Directive, and the image of the hedges using the Delta was really interesting. Although once we get to the planet, it's all like frozen and snow, and there's nothing green whatsoever. It didn't look like a place that would have those hedges.
Well, it's funny. I didn't even think they were hedges. I just thought that it was like a thermal sort of image, and so they were just showing up green because of temperature or whatnot. But I guess that makes much more sense that it was green because they were plants.
Well, it would, but then once we get on the planet, it doesn't. We don't see that at all.
Radiation heat. Yeah,
I don't know. It's
on the
whatever.
list. It's on the list.
It's on the list. We got it. So in Act 1, we get our first voiceover from Ortegas. She's pumped that she gets to play dress up and go on the away mission. Of course, fun.
Yeah.
She meets La'an and Mbenga, who are also dressed up. But then, Spock says, we're going to have to fly through a bunch of debris orbiting the planet, so Ortegas doesn't get to go along after all. Bummer. Although I did notice, like, in the shot that they had in the meeting, there's the debris field, but it doesn't go around the entire planet. It's just like one piece of it, so it's orbiting around like this. Why couldn't they just fly behind it and follow it in orbit? That way they don't ever have to fly through all of that debris.
I don't know.
Okay, well...
You really left me some space to come up with something that I had.
This is really, the insightful commentary.
Oh man, she's like, man, now I just got my little stupid hat and I can't even fly. But you guys still have a mission critical fly,
No, you get to do stuff, but she's been on the ship for a while. She wants to go down and do some pew-pews.
I'm sorry. She hasn't been in many episodes recently, so I do feel bad.
No, well, she gets an episode. Everybody gets an episode. So now Pike gets to pilot the shuttle down to the surface. He used to be a test pilot. That's good to know. So, but their plan is to land 20 kilometers away and then hike into the city. That's a big hike. I get they don't want to contaminate stuff by showing the shuttlecraft, but it's a long way to go on your feet. And Pike says we can't use any of our tech. We are going to have to fight hand-to-hand, which is why I brought La'an and Mbenga, because they're awesome fighters, as we know already. And we can only use Bronze Age tech. So, I wonder if that's going to play out later, that we can't We can't use our pew-pews.
But we do.
And we can't call for help.
That does come into play.
So
they're like, we're just like, can we use, guys? We have some leftover LARPing costumes from last season. You got anything we can maybe write a plot? We could recycle those.
Reduce, reuse, recycle. It's very green. So I thought Mega has a good line, and he's like, "Yeah, doctors love being tasked for a mission because of their combat skills." Which is great. Then, out of nowhere, La'an has some sort of an episode, and we hear the tinnitus. I thought it was going to be like a PTSD flashback, and I see what I thought here. I was like, "Oh, La'an was on the mission too." And she's having a sort of a flashback to whatever horrible thing happened that got them all killed. But that's not what's happening. And we shift forward and find out she's lost 6 hours of memory of them hiking through the snow, which I understand. You know, if I could lose 6 hours of exercise, I'd be like, great. I could just go for it. And however, we get sort of to the castle, and we see that the Starfleet Delta is on the gates as well. And La'an has another headachy kind of a thing. Then they spot guards who seem to have phaser rifles. That's also not good news. Then 6 of them show up and they say, "We know you come from Starfleet." So we've got some serious issues. What were you feeling here, Mike?
A little confused. I was still confused as to why, like, even though we couldn't bring our tech, we couldn't use our tech or show our tech, we could have brought some maybe for just safekeeping, just to keep ourselves a little safe. But I guess Prime Directive says we can't do that. We got to make sure we don't make the same mistake we made last time, right? So
I guess, although I would understand that more for the first trip down. They're already contaminated. You know you've got some cleanup, and you know that it's dangerous.
Yeah.
I might like find some, take an old timey looking thing and hide a phaser inside it. Maybe that would be useful.
Yeah. It's like kind of weird what the whole. I guess we could talk about it later, but I still don't quite understand what's the guy we left behind?
Zach.
So Zach lived. The other two ostensibly they're dead still.
I think they actually died. He must not have died all the way.
So aside
and
from just
him
like
behind.
being pissed off and keeping this kind of living in this kind of Stone Age society, he doesn't. I'm not saying he's a good guy. I'm not saying he's off the hook, but they don't really have a plot, right? They're just kind of doing their thing down there. There's not really any sort of plan. He doesn't really have a.
Well, no, because I don't think he's like planning to take over the universe. He's just surviving.
Yeah, and then he sees Pike, and he's like, okay, now it's a revenge plot sort of. Not even that. He just kind of throws him out there.
Well, I mean, he's angry. I would understand why he's angry, and but yeah, like I think he's just like, I found these dum-dums I can exploit. And I don't think Zach's a really good guy. I think is the message here.
He's just surviving though. I can't. He's not bad. It's
not just he like took over an entire society and kept half of them as slaves.
It doesn't seem like there's many of them. You got to do what you got to do, man.
If it's not many of them, it's okay to like enslave half a population.
But the thing is that do we know that he enslaved them, or was this just kind of the way things were being run, and he just kind of like was like, well, my choice is be one of them or be the king. I guess I'll go for sleep in my bed.
But like, if you're the king, maybe you can like just tamp it down a little bit on the slavery.
Well, how many are there? Like, can we get them all inside? Because that's the only thing that is the evil wormhole at the end. There's like an evil wormhole, which is, the solution is just bring everybody inside. I guess that would be tough because there's too many.
Well, but you might be, or just give them all hats.
Oh yeah, the hats.
The hats. So you 100% could have.
Yeah, hat on a
done
hat.
This.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's not a good guy.
Fuck you, Zach.
Yeah, fuck you, Zach. So they're taken into a large chamber, and their king is Zach. One of the officers who was supposedly KIA. And he's gone from the yeoman, which is sort of like the coffee person, to the high lord of this castle.
Some would say he went from the yeoman to the yo man.
Yep. Some would say that. Yes, I think I think you would say that. Yeah. And we're all better for it. All right. So where was I? So he says the radiation on the planet messes with your head, thus the tinnitus, the memory loss, and the headaches. And he says, hey, I made myself king, and I'm never going back. And he mentions also that Rigel 7 changes people.
By the way, that crown is awesome.
Yeah, I mean that is intense.
Yeah, that's really cool sculpt.
And helps keep his memory there because it's made out of like the metal goo that protects you. So there you go. Then Pike loses time and ends up with Mbenga and La'an in a cage, which I liked the idea of just like time jumping forward and we don't know what happened. And so like I thought they could have done more with that, but I guess because the way that the memory wiping works is that once you're there for a while, you keep your memory as long as you're conscious. But when you're just starting, it sort of sputters a little bit and you just lose pieces of time.
Yeah, I think they do a decent job with the guy Luke in kind of explaining how the lore of it works. That it is every day. It's very memento in its cyclical nature, but you, I guess, adapt to the disorientation of it, especially if you have the various totems or tattoos or whatever. I mean, it is directly memento at one point.
Yeah. Which is, I mean, I love the idea of this. I think it's pretty cool. So I don't know. Let's see how it all plans out. And in their cage, La'an is out and she wakes up and doesn't even know who Pike is or what her name is. And everybody is losing their memory. And brings us to Act 2, where as well, now Uhura on the bridge is having the tinnitus and loses 2 hours just sitting there. And Una sends Ortegas to shepherd her to the sickbay. We also get a little nugget here that Una used to be the one who flew the Enterprise.
This is where it's like we didn't need another beat of Ortega's doing this important flying, but then they take this away from her, and everybody, whenever they take it away from her, somebody's like, yeah, I can fly the ship.
Yeah, you're not that important. We don't really need you.
But also here, like the rules question comes, and I'm a stickler for rules at times. This is the second time.
Yes, I found that to be true of you.
There's
that rule follower, Mike Indeglio.
No. When it comes to like sci-fi rules or horror rules, or that makes it within a plot. And this is like the second time we've had a mysterious type of illness take over this Enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
It's always weird to me, like, if it's the general radiation that is bringing this on, they're all being exposed to it at the same levels at the same time. So why is it so staggered other than plot convenience, right?
Well, no, because we're all biologically different.
Yeah.
Like if both of us get a cold, it's going to manifest itself differently and at different timetables. Like, that makes perfect sense to me.
I mean, it makes
sense
in general, yes, but it's always just very convenient as to who goes down when and stuff. But it's TV. I get it.
Haven't you ever been?
I'm just pointing it out. Why is
you've been in a family and one kid comes down with a cold and everybody has it differently?
Mm-hmm.
Come on, that's normal. What's wrong with you? So, Chapel checks her over with a new haircut I like very much. And she finds synaptic degradation all over her brain. Spock calls and says, this is happening all over the ship. So we head back to the surface, and some guards open the cage and say, get out. Our heroes just look confused, but are rescued by Tony winner Reed Birney. And he says they have no totem and they need help. He tries to help them calm down and be in the moment. they all have memory losses, but Reed says, my totem helps me. So he also has memory loss. Our heroes break rocks and cut wood, and Reed says, we have forgettings. We essentially forget everything every single morning. We can remember basic stuff like walking and talking, but we don't know who we are or what's happening. But importantly, the people in the castle get to remember what's going on. Mbenga sucks at cutting wood. That's not a very good. He's like, I cannot saw through this wood. We're filming this for 6 hours. It's like they didn't tell him he was on camera when he was sawing.
Maybe he sucks at wood cutting. You know what I mean? They're not skilled laborers. I think there's a great moment here where Pike realizes these are not the hands of a laborer. So clearly something is.
These are not the hands of a laborer.
Something is up. I also found that I think it's really interesting plot-wise, and this is actually good, that they are a pretty firmly Stone Age type civilization, because at that point you're not developing a lot of advanced if you're going to have a group of laborers, right, that are going to be continually forgetting how to do stuff, they can only do instinctual based activities.
That's a really good point.
There ain't no skill. You wouldn't have any like engineers or anybody doing anything complex because they don't know how to do anything every morning when they wake
everybody's
up.
First day on the job every day.
So basically like hammer, cut, pick up. That's kind of the extent of what you could do. If it was any
That's a very good point. Yeah. That's interesting. Anyway, Reed says, just do the work. Don't worry about it. Be in the moment, do the work.
He's very zen, this guy, yeah.
He's very zen. But Pike can tell that everyone has given up and they just forgot why to fight. Interesting. So Pike's like, I'm going to fight. And he beats up the guard. Then La'an joins and takes out the next one, but is cut badly in the process. Mbenga's doctor instinct kicks in and he helps her. They need to peace out. And Bernie's like, okay, I'll help, which is helpful. So we head to the ship, and Chapel explains what's happening and what types of memories people are losing and or retaining. And we find out that a third of the crew is down already. So this is moving fast.
It is a nice haircut. I hadn't noticed that.
I'm telling you. Look.
Yeah, I know. You made it very clear, Keith.
My little heart goes pitter-pat, okay? I can't help it.
Yeah.
I can't help it. Mm-hmm. So, a third, respectfully pitter-pat. So Spock smartly hands out tablets to remind folks who they are. Mm-hmm. Really good idea. Yes, look, my heart going pitter-pat. Well, that's unfortunate screenshot.
Do you know what Strange New Worlds retcons for me from, I guess, all of the Treks?
When nobody has their eyes open.
Yeah, specifically Deep Space Nine, I've been noticing. You would think, I'm glad that they like predicted the future with the iPads and stuff, but they're going to have clearly 8K high resolution imaging on them. So every time we look back at some of the Deep Space Nine pads and it's like very abstract schematic, you're like, the future probably got better graphics.
But, think about what your VGA monitor was doing in 1995. You're just lucky it was color.
Yeah. They're like, we're playing this advanced video game system. Look at the pixel art.
Yeah, it's like Minecraft for everything. That's it. Well, maybe like Minecraft, they're like ironically low res.
That's it. There it is.
Maybe that's it. So anyway, Spock's like, we got to get out of here, but we can't leave the landing party. And we find out that Una's brain is now mush. So Spock says to head away from the planet into the debris field, which is all dangerous, but he thinks will protect them from the radiation. But then never does.
Yeah, it was unclear. They never. I think we lost on the edit room floor the explanation of whether the debris field amplifies the radiation, or it's also radiated, or perhaps it just isn't a block. It's not a shield.
Well, from what we understand at the end, right? This whole thing is caused by the meteorite on the planet. So I'm assuming that giant meteorite came from, the two moons that crashed together and blew up, so that this this debris orbiting the planet probably has whatever is in that meteorite that's causing this. So they went in and made it worse for themselves. But why?
So then when they remove the meteorite at the end,
yeah, it's going to fix the memory shit.
but how? If the debris field, clearly they're within distance of the. Maybe it doesn't hit the planet from that distance.
I don't think it goes all the way. I think the assumption here is that the planet's surface is far enough away from the debris field. It was only the meteorite that's literally sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess, but why did Spock think that going into the meteor field was going to protect them here? And why don't we sort of explain why that didn't work if that's the case? I don't know.
Science, Keith. Spock knows science, and there's some science that must say maybe that'll block us. I don't know.
He doesn't know the science, apparently.
Well, he's forgetting it a little bit, maybe. Maybe he's got early onset radiation.
Early onset dumb-dumbness. Okay, it's possible. So, back on the planet, Varney takes them to his yurt. It does not seem well insulated for a frozen environment.
That's a really good point.
Nobody here is insulated. They're wandering around. Nobody has a hat.
But if you don't know you're cold, Keith.
I mean, look, I came from a cold environment, and my father did build his own yurt. We know it's cold, okay?
Okay, when we get to wormholes and you bring this up again, remind me. I have a wormhole around this too. It's not a wormhole as much as a bugaboo, but I want to save it so we have something to talk about then.
What is the distinction between a wormhole and a bugaboo?
Well, you'll see. The distinction will become clear. The distinction will become clear.
Okay, well, we have to tell the intern to put in our frequently asked questions
the difference.
The definition of wormhole versus bugaboo. All right, so in the center of the yurt is a totem, and it explains that they, the Kalar, have been split into those who remember and those who don't. Slaves and kings, essentially. Though Varney doesn't see it that way. He thinks he's free because he has no memories. Sorry, I have to... Cat management's very important. They have no past or future, so they have no pain. And he says, our only truths here are our emotions. Pike asks why the people in the palace remember. And Varney says there's some sort of box in the castle that might be holding their memories. A casket of memories. And he agrees to help them storm the castle to get their memories back. This whole like Zen, is it like we have no past, we have no future, we're only in the moment. It's sort of like Buddhist a little bit. The philosophy here.
What's that called? Oh my god, I just oh man, nihilism. Bugabism, yeah.
Could be.
I guess I have some issues with that philosophy, but I mean, I get his point.
Well, I mean, there are obvious issues with all philosophies, but it is an interesting adaptation to the situation. And I think there's more. There was more there to be mined in like this. He's experiencing freedom from this when really it's exploitation.
Yes.
And it's like you tell the exploited people they're free. It's kind of like what they're doing with the Florida education system. Oh, the benefits of
Except that
horrifying.
His philosophy is not just from the totem. We learn towards one of the scenes right before the final act that it's also sort of a self-devised,
self-protective,
philosophy, which raises some questions about, well, how do you have that? How's there any permanence to that philosophy if you're resetting every day?
Well, I think what he's done is because he's exploited the fact that his memory is wiped all the time, that he basically stops reminding himself that he had a family.
Well, but he had the tattoo to remind himself, and he's covered that up at some point.
Which he covered up. But he doesn't know what he covered up anymore.
Right. But he knows something important.
And so, like, he knew something important happened, but he chose at some point to forget his family. But like he said, emotions are truth. He knows emotionally somewhere that it's there.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. I mean, like, that is a philosophical quandary. It's
actually one of the best parts of this episode, I think, because I think about That's a very step one. It's not a well plotted out philosophy because, I mean, 2 examples. I love the Eternal Sunshine of a Spotless Mind is a great example, right? Where
movies scare the crap out of me.
Hey, I've got all these bad memories or hurt, right? Like, take it away. It's easy, great. But
Yeah.
then it's still in there. And so that search to figure out why you have that hole, why you have that, I
Why
didn't
you
know
keep
at the
being
time.
drawn to the thing that's hurting you.
But then it would become clear to me as I became an adult and realized what clinical depression is. Guess what? Not knowing why you're sad and just feeling the sad part sucks too. Maybe worse. So
Well, it gives you no agency
right
in what you're dealing with. You can't fix it if you don't know what it is. And so you're right. It is sort of like a very surface level adaptation to pain is to try to forget it. It's denial, right?
Right, and they do have a quick discussion about that coming up where Pike basically says that. He's like, well, if you're still going to feel the hurt, but you just don't know why, are you really escaping it in any way?
No. Well, I mean, and that's and basically, if you break down what is therapy, therapy is trying to figure out why you feel so bad, so you have some agency to do something about it. And so it's I don't know. So this part of the episode I think is fascinating. Like the rest of it I don't care about so much, but this part I think is interesting.
Well, and I mean, sometimes you got to tell the macro and the micro, and I think that it does tie back to Pike's point in the beginning, because as you said, yeah, it does make sense on a surface level to say, hey, this relationship feels good and I really care about you, but I can see all the logistical nightmares and potholes and the hurt that is coming in. So why don't we just cut off the limb now and not feel any of that and save ourselves all the trouble? But I guess the point is retroactively it works the same way.
And actually, it's the same thing but in reverse.
Exactly. 100%.
Because Pike is saying, I see things in the future that are going to be painful, so let's shut it off. And he's like, I see things in the past that are painful, let's shut it off. And so the opposite message. So Pike needs to take some of this, like, just be in the moment, just just experience it. See, that's interesting. I like that. So
as a part of the human experience, I think that's the whole point here. Maybe not human, though.
Right.
Part of the sentient experience is that the forgetting and the feeling and all of the things, and he keeps saying, let's be in the moment, let's be in the moment. And yeah, there's greatness in that, but that doesn't preclude you from also having all of your experience, the minutes, the minutia.
Right. And it's about mixing them all together, and you get agency through knowledge. There it is. So in Act 3, they walk closer to the castle and leave Varney to care for La'an. They say they'll get his memories back once they get into the box, but he doesn't want them. Pike touches the necklace that Batel gave him and feels like he needs to get back to her for some reason, because he's got a MacGuffin. Bernie says, forgetting can't delete love or pain, which is interesting because he's the one that chose to forget as a way to delete his pain, but he also knows that it doesn't work.
Right, but this is important too. So the nuance is cool. At some point, God knows how long he's been down there and going through these cycles, right? At some point, he decided he wanted to forget the pain, but he had his wife and daughter or son on his arm. Right. But he's continued to somewhat evolve in his experience and in his philosophy, his more sort of Taoist philosophy. So, maybe he would make the choice different now, for all we know.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
Sure. And you don't know what time is an element to pain and to grieving and all of that. And I don't know, it's interesting. So, because maybe he covered it up the day they died, thinking that the pain would always be like that. Don't know. So he has a backstory that he doesn't know and has no one to pass it on to. And he has some horrible sadness he doesn't want to remember. And I wrote, God, Bernie is good. His lines are all kind of nonsense, and yet it's heartbreaking and clear all at the same time. Such a great actor. So on the bridge, now both Spock and Ortegas are hearing the tinnitus and no longer know who they are. And Spock's great plan of reading the tablet doesn't work anymore because he doesn't know how to read.
That was cool. That was a cool little wrinkle.
And it was cool. Like the smart plan didn't work. Ortegas leaves the bridge and tells the turbolift to take her home. She walks the hallways filled with similarly clueless people, including Chapel, but the computer is there to help her find her quarters. She gets there, and it seems like someone is shooting at them or they're crashing into meteors, which we find out later they're starting to crash into the meteors.
Because nobody's driving the ship, right?
No, nobody's driving the ship. I don't know why we had this journey back home. I thought it was going to mean that she was going to find something in her quarters or whatever that helped put this together.
Yeah, I feel like maybe they felt they needed to explain what the experience of this amnesia was like a little bit, because this is very much more POV. But I feel like we all filled in the gap. We pretty much put it together. But
yeah, it would have been good if there was something in that journey that filled in a piece of it.
From this point forward, I think it works because it's that identity bit and how like it's,
no, for sure,
her piloting is so integral to her.
Like in their DNA.
Instincts, yeah. But you're right. The journey up, I think, was supposed to be sort of a horror beat, maybe.
Yeah, I suppose. And to find out the computer can talk to you and help you with things.
But also, it plays to. I'm just going to say it here. I've said this every week. Like, you know what a lot of prestige streaming shows are doing right now, which I personally like, is the length of the episodes is tied to how long the story is, right? So you see some that are an hour 10. An hour 15, 35, 40, depending on what they need, there's no real constraints. Here I feel like they're locked in at an hour, and I do feel a lot of padding around the 2/3 mark. And this is another example. Like I just felt like this was a tight 45-minute episode that got stretched to 57 minutes, and you can feel those extra 12 minutes, in my opinion.
Yeah, I can see elements of that.
It's not like I said.
I feel like it was padded as much as it just was missing a beat.
Oh, I just felt there's redundancy.
Yeah, I thought that the time spent on the ship, right, that we're here, it needed one more piece of the puzzle. It needed one more beat. I don't think the time that we spent was the wrong amount of time. I think there wasn't enough information in it. I think if we truncated it too much, it would have felt a little disjointed. We needed some. I don't know what it would be. Like I don't have a solution for it off the top of my head. But
also, like
something
when both parts, like when we're separated on these away missions, like when Spock and Pike were in that library on the Elysian planet, you know. Like where I feel better when both parties have agency in the rescue. Like here, I guess they have her do the super piloting, which is what we're leading to. But I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of a competency. All we really see is them figure out the radiation thing, and then everybody loses their memory.
And she sort of magically acquires the skills. I would have liked to have. Maybe that's the beat. The beat is something between I'm Ortegas and I'm a pilot, and her recovering all of her genius piloting skills. Like she finds something in her quarters that teaches her something that I don't know, like something that helps her acquire those skills as opposed to just the mantra.
Also, like, I'll just say it early because we're almost there. So the Stone Age civilization, right, figured out that our helmets block the radiation, and yet none of us figure out or even postulate that, hey, maybe just like some iron or maybe it's, unless it's an ore that is unique to the planet.
I think it is an ore unique to the planet.
Well, there you go.
And I don't think it's like lead.
Okay, then cool. I'll let it go.
But yeah, I do, however, really like that Ortegas has a model ship on her bookshelf, just like I do. It's right there, same ship, same bookshelf. That's cool. So, anyway, Pike wakes up from tinnitus moment, and he realizes at that moment we're in the middle of the battle, and he and Mbenga take out a guard. They take him out, but Mbenga is shot in the leg, so Pike has to go forward himself while Mbenga fights off the other guards. Here's another question. We'll put this in the wormhole bucket. How many phaser rifles did they bring to the planet? Or was the guy able to make more phaser rifles? Which I'm skeptical that he would be
No, they
He was
don't.
like
They
the
definitely don't
coffee
have.
guy.
They don't have the tech for that. No chance.
Well, I mean, like the guy of the future, and he has a tricord, is that kind of stuff. But I don't think he would have the ability to make more phaser rifles,
So
which
at least
means
we see at least 30. I would say. Let's say over
Yeah.
under is 30 to 50.
So I don't think we saw that, man. I'd say like
I'm
10
just-
to 15.
Yeah, I'm
but,
saying if I'm being generous here, just to even at 10 to
So-
15, that's a lot.
So if we're thinking that he couldn't create more because he didn't have a replicator, he didn't, and he was a coffee guy, he was a yeoman, he was not like a weapon specialist.
Mhm.
That would mean that the first away mission. Now I get they lost some people. They didn't bring 50 commandos all with rifles. They don't even bring rifles on these away missions, right? It would have been like a phaser. So where did they get all these rifles? It's a wormhole.
Yeah, it's a wormhole.
Unless you can think of a way to fix it, that it makes no sense to me.
They said it was a survey mission, right? Did we say what that initial mission was?
Yeah, I think they were like, "Hey, what's here? Like,
yeah,
let's
so
go look at some
you wouldn't have
plants."
brought like a weapon cache for any
You don't bring a SWAT team, right? And then leave all of the weapons behind, even
and
when
inside
you do.
that like iron. But here's the thing. So, hold on. When we
Okay,
get
see
to
if you can fix
the
it.
coffin, right?
Right.
It's a crate with medical supplies. So we brought a bunch
Right.
of medical supplies with us, I guess, in case the people down there on our first mission needed.
Well, but we knew they were Bronze Age, so we wouldn't have wanted to interact with them at all. Certainly not using our tech.
Yeah, but we brought a bunch of medical tech. It's all there. It's in the bucket. So we brought that
Well-
too. That can be part of the wormhole. That's fine if that's what we establish. But we obviously brought supply crates because there's one there.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that my guess is that they were going and watching them and like checking them out from like an archaeological standpoint.
So we set up a base camp, and in
We
base
set up a little
camp, we
base camp.
probably had some weapons, we had some medical stuff, we had some tech, but we kept it far away, and we were just going to beam it all out when we escaped. But in the ensuing chaos,
But
we forgot to bring our weapons, or we
The
forgot to
mission
bring our...
was they were in and out of there in 4 hours. So they
Yeah,
didn't.
but if
they
we
didn't
can
set
beam
up a
stuff,
camp.
if we can beam in and out, why not set up base camp?
Well, sure, but even if we did,
Mhm.
why are we bring 30 phaser rifles? We didn't bring 30
that
phaser
is
rifles to like.
an argument to have in the prep for our next away mission, but I'm just trying to fill the wormhole in the present.
We
here.
didn't bring 30 phaser rifles when we beamed onto the Borg ship.
All right, well, then okay. Then I did my best, so I guess we're saying official wormhole.
Yeah, there it is. Official. Damn it. So, anyway, in Act 4, Ortegas is freaking out on the floor and asks the computer for help. The computer asks if she'd like to plot a course, and the computer explains that she's a pilot. And she realizes it's up to her to get the ship out. I am Erica Ortegas. I fly the ship. So she does indeed start flying. Meanwhile, Pike is on a solo attack on the castle and somehow has gotten himself down to a one-on-one with the king / Federation guy. Wow, he did a good job fighting through the entire castle.
Yeah, let me ask you this, Keith, before
Yeah.
we get to it. So, just like I don't know the physics of all this stuff, but
Mhm.
so just like a metal plate can block you from a phaser rifle, because he blocks like he volleys like 3 shots of direct phaser fire with like a wine tray.
He sure does. I guess it depends on what setting the phaser rifle is set on.
And like what this cool ore down there is, because if it's
It's a-
like you can build armor, like phaser blocking armor from the ore down there, I'd get some.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's like a proxy for lead, which protects you from radiation, I think is the idea. But yeah, I mean, look, Federation phasers have an amazing amount of arrays of settings, and sometimes they can take out an entire wall of a cave, sometimes they can't do anything, sometimes they literally vaporize people, sometimes they don't. It really is sort of whatever it needs to be.
Okay.
To have the cool shot of him using a serving tray to protect himself from phaser fire. However, here's how I'll fix it.
Okay.
Zach has gone a little crazy, and he's definitely mad at Pike, blah, blah, blah. I don't think he wants to murder him. So he probably has it on stun.
Okay.
Because he needs to do his monologuing and explain how Pike ruined everything. He's not done. So I bet he has it on stun.
Okay, I'll take
I fixed it. So anyway, he gets down to 1-on-1 with Zach. Pike wins, and Pike asks, "Where are our memories?" And the Federation guys, he's like, "There's no casket of memories." So Pike beats him up and screams, "I need our memories." I guess Pike's id is pretty aggressive.
Yeah, he beat the hell out of him.
He sure did. Ortegas flies through the stuff and zaps through a giant meteor, which I thought was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Like the visuals for that. It was exciting.
Although, I know the answer to this, but it did. They made it such an important. It was so important that they had two characters say it like that. Look, hey, I am gonna forget everything. I could probably do like fix up a basic wound. They had both doctors say this, but I can't do anything complex. Like that we don't remember. So that stands to reason that like I could basically know how to fly the ship, but any advanced maneuvers I would have forgotten.
Yeah, like Spock can't read.
Yeah, but she can like get the weapons to like blow a hole and do like the swans. So I guess we're learning that like even advanced super technique flying is like simple to her.
Well, I think the analogy that they're working on is like muscle memory.
Mm-hmm.
That like if you're a professional baseball player, even if you don't remember the rules of baseball, you see the ball coming at you, you can hit it even though it's coming 95 miles an hour.
Says I've done a basic triage 1,000 times, but like has she done this 1,000 times?
I mean, Mike, did you not hear? She is Erica Ortega. She flies the ship.
You're right.
Mike.
You're right.
She flies the ship.
That's a cool shot, by the way.
It's a great shot. So. Pike finds the casket, which is just a box of Federation tools, including a tricorder. Be very
and 40
useful.
Rifles.
And an arsenal.
Yeah.
Like, apparently this dude's a prepper. So the Federation guy says that the palace and the guards' helmets are made of an ore that protects their memories. And Pike keeps beating him up as he laughs. But then, slowly, because he's given the protection, Pike's memory comes back.
So it happens pretty fast. He has not been in there a long time. Half hour, maybe?
No, half hour. Yeah, totally. Like, it works. So, obviously, the memory wiper is a constant presence. Mm-hmm. Pike feels bad for abandoning him. And, but this Zach guy, he turned out to be a dick. I don't know. It's not cool. Not a cool dude. But look at that phaser rifle. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Good. So later, Mbenga saves La'an in the castle. They've all gotten in and they're safe. Reed Birney is in there too. He's clearly remembering whatever it was that broke him. He had a family and a son. And he's sad about it, but grateful to remember.
Keith?
All is well. Yes, sad.
No, what's the eye thing they do together? Have you learned that?
I mean, I think it's
a Starfleet
is it
thing?
ASL?
Oh,
I bet
maybe.
it's ASL.
That makes sense. I never heard of that. I don't know. I don't know ASL.
I only know like two things. I think that would be a good thing to learn. Anyway, Pike has all is well. Spock and Ortegas fixed the ship, and Pike has a solution to the planet's problems. They're going to get rid of the asteroid that poisoned the planet because the asteroid was not part of the natural evolution of the planet, so therefore they can get around with monkeying with it and the Prime Directive. Although they have no solution to the whole, the guy took over, the Federation is going to deal with that later. So later, Pike meets up with Battelle to apologize. He acted like an ass and he was wrong. I'm not sure that he did either of those. Like, he didn't act like an ass. He just was like, this is difficult to do this. Like, his point, hanging out with me is hurting your career. That's just the truth. It's difficult to be in a relationship in 10 and 30-minute pieces. That's the truth as well.
Keith, I'm just for your future relationships.
Oh, here we go.
If your new partner comes home and is like, hey, I'm at trouble at work, I might get fired. That's not the time to break up with them.
Well, that's fair.
Okay, maybe wait a little while.
Okay, that's totally fair. I still don't have to share my popcorn, though, do I?
No, never have to do that.
Okay, good. Never say you're sorry. Never share popcorn. No, but like yes, that was the wrong time to do it, but I don't think his points were wrong. However, he does make a superseding point that I think is really well put, which is not a lot of other people can understand the sort of pressures and complex lives that we have because we're both captains. We both, have a greater purpose. Our time is going to be whatever, and we're under all this stress. And dating another captain, one of the few people in the world who get it. And I thought there was definitely a parallel there, because it's like having two people in the arts, right? And in our lives, right, when you're both actors or one of you is in the arts or actors, like it's entirely possible that you or Jen like lands a national tour and they're gone for a year. And you have to, and it's good to both be doing the same thing and understand that like, oh, my spouse might be gone for the next 9 months and I'll see them for like 2 weeks out of that. And if you don't understand that career and don't prioritize that, it can be really difficult. So
I think that's important, but I think the episode has a very strong point of view, and they use the Luke character to impart this to Pike, and I think it's important to counteract what you just said about he's not wrong about all those things about the conflict they have in their relationship. But I think with Luke's family, what he's saying is, look, if you knew in advance, and you do, right? Having a family, falling in love, all of those things are pragmatically and practically stupid because that person is going to die or get sick or we're going to fight.
It's like getting a pet.
Yeah. And I'm going to have to put them down in 10 years. Like, so if the end result is the least amount of pain, well, you should not get a pet. You should not fall in love.
Yeah.
You should
not
have
do
any
no
of those
attachments.
things.
Yeah.
But part of being human is that it's, energy's not created or destroyed, right? So whatever love you're putting in, or whatever hurt you're going to get on the end result, you probably have the equal or greater amount of love in the beginning. So I think that's the point here.
And like Pike aside, the future that might happen, the negative things that might happen in the future, if you allow those to limit you, then, like be in the moment sometimes too. Like you can't always, like, I can't be crippled with my sadness that Charlie is not going to be with me for the rest of my life to the point where I don't enjoy the time that we spend together.
Correct. Especially if Charlie made a marinara like Pike does.
Well, absolutely. Absolutely. So there you go. There is among the Lotus Eaters. We need to start adjudicating this in a segment we call...
Punch that shit!
Punch it! Just punch it, man! Just punch it! Punch it!
Let's punch it.
Hit it.
Yo, Adrian! It's the Punchies!
Oh, you updated it!
Yeah, I shortened it for you.
Oh, well done. That was great, though.
Thanks. We appreciate you.
We got some. We got some Mike. That's the Punchies. That was great. I really enjoyed that. Let's see if we enjoy our first segment. Wormholes in the plot, Mike. Were there any wormholes?
Yeah, there's a couple things. So the bugaboo I wanted to mention, Keith, was...
Oh, right.
So, like, the effects on this show are great, right? Everything they do in the volume is pretty excellent. All of the spaceship flying and lasers and everything look great. But there's, like, we're in an uncanny valley. There's still something that has bothered me since the stupid Rent movie back in the 90s that has just not improved. And it's when it's cold outside and they freaking CGI breath in. CGI breath does not work for me. I know I'm very unique in this experience, but like it rips me out. I didn't even notice the fact that the house wasn't insulated, but I saw the fake breath and I was like, it's not cold. There's no snow. That's fake breath. So the fake breath and the houses they're living in a yurt. They don't have gloves. All that stuff I think we can put together as like they didn't do good environmental storytelling.
And no, they did not. And like walking around on the cold planet that is so clearly, CG all around. It's not green screen anymore, but the perspective was off. So something about the perspective was off in the 3D environment.
Yeah,
So
like
that
when
was
they were
very
off
clear.
to see the wizard and the castle was out there, I was like, that seems very far away. Or
Yeah, the depth was off in some fashion, and you're right. Like the coldness of it just didn't read in any way, shape, or form. So you're right. That was not a good effect.
so also wormhole, and I think I know the argument to this against, but I would counter that in this part. First, let me preempt and say, La'an has been through a lot of stuff, and I think she's grown, and now she's
La'an must suffer.
yeah, and I think she's grown, and she doesn't want other people to suffer, right? I just don't like in any show when, and generally Trek, Deep Space Nine, and Strange New Worlds does this very well. So it's when they misstep, it shall be noted. If you were on a dangerous mission, and you have other people, they are a very small away team here, and lives have already been lost on this planet. If I had a crushing headache, tinnitus, and then lost ostensibly 6 hours of time, and somebody was like, "Are you all right?" I'd be like, "You know what?
Yeah.
I think it's fair to mention." And they're like, "Should we turn back? Is everything okay?" And she continually is like, "Yeah, I'm good.
No, it's all good.
Cool.
It's all good.
Totally fine." Now, I get it that we need that, obviously, for the entire plot of the show, but you come up with a reason then why she doesn't mention it. Like, it can't just be she's stubborn because we've had such a journey with her. She wouldn't want to put people at risk.
Yeah. No, I think that's a totally fair point. You'd think at this point, Federation officers would get really good training at like, yeah, if something feels off, say it feels off, treat it seriously, because weird stuff happens constantly.
Yeah. And the last thing, and this is this is just a fun one for me as a wormhole, but as you mentioned, you had some family experience with the tinnitus.
Yeah.
Any personal experience?
I mean, not for very long.
Yeah,
I've
I'll
had
have
like
a ringing here and there, but that
little moments here and there, but
Yeah.
not mercifully.
Yes, I agree.
Serious.
I've had some ringing in my ear too. That's lasted a couple minutes, and even that's very disconcerting. So I cannot imagine.
Super disconcerting.
But I do suffer on occasion. It used to be a lot worse in my 20s and 30s, and thankfully diet and some exercise has helped a lot. But I used to suffer from migraines. And they mention and they should have taken it out of the script. They mention intense migraines as a side effect.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever had a regular migraine. Forget intense migraine. You ain't doing anything. You're not in the hallway rocking or what are these people doing. You are in the dark, crying, praying to end it all. It's bad. So I just felt like it was cool. They came up with these great symptoms. They're like tinnitus and intense migraines. Well, none of these people on the planet would be operational in any way. They would they're not doing work. They're sure not hammering. They're not sawing. They're not doing anything. Suffering from these symptoms. So I mean, it's a thing. I get it. It's not a big, but they picked very specific symptoms that would incapacitate people. The amnesia of it all makes total sense. I don't know they needed to surround it with such devastating consequences that they don't portray on screen.
They're not happy.
So those are my wormholes. They're not.
That Charlie's composing. Oh God! Yes, I definitely do have tinnitus from the cat composing constantly.
That's really funny.
Yes. So no, I mean all that you said, and I don't need to like say it again, but like where did these phaser rifles come from? Like that's weird. So let's go to our best moment.
Yeah. There's some great ones. I think there was 2 cool reveals here. I actually think, our boy Luke was just so good in everything he did.
Yeah.
I would say though that the kind of conversation they have on the I'm gonna take it back. What I really liked was the moment where you expect Luke, the character Luke, when they're in the triage tent, when they're in the yurt, and Pike's deciding to go on the mission and all this stuff, you expect the Luke character, the way they built him thus far, to try to convince him to stay and to like, we have to stay what the totem tells us is to be in the moment and to not blah, blah. But he's like, no, your instincts say you need to go and fight, so let's go and fight. And he goes on that journey with him. It's a really cool character, and the way he explains it, he's like, I've learned to trust emotion. His character is, there's a lot of paradox with him, but it doesn't. He plays it so well that it makes some points. So anyway, I just liked everything he did, but I want to pick that moment because I thought it was a swerve that I wasn't expecting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't necessarily have a specific moment, but I think you're right. It's Reed Birney's performance in this whole thing. I mean, because if you just imagine that script and those scenes with a normally talented actor. Be like, what is this? This could be really eggy without somebody of his caliber. And so the way that he just registers that sort of deep sadness while saying the opposite of what he's feeling, I just think was really beautifully done. So yeah, I guess it's not a specific moment.
Also, where did we leave everybody on the planet? Like, we took the asteroid away, we took away the bad guy.
Yeah.
And we're just going to leave them to see how things develop when everybody has their memory back and they can just
I think so. Yeah. Okay. I think so. I think it's literally just like, all right, you got your memories back. Do what you will.
Yeah. We'll check on you later. Bye.
There's going to be some heads on pikes.
I guess they're going to take the guns back, right?
Yes, I would assume that they're going to take all of the technology back. But they said that the Federation was going to adjudicate all of this later. So I think they just escalated the ticket to somebody else and moved on.
I did like the beat where what's the bad guy's name? Sean or
Zach.
Such weird names. Luke and Zach.
You just assembled half a boy band.
Mike, Keith, Luke, Zach. Bishop.
We don't remember the lyrics, but somehow I do know the choreography.
Who grew a garden on the roof? I do like that they had that was my choreo. I like that when
we're the Bronze Ages.
They point out just kind of how random it is. Like you caught me on the one day. He's like, yeah, they grew that up there as like a tribute to me. I was gonna tear it down tomorrow, but I guess you found it on the exact moment to incept this whole plot. So I was glad. At least they pointed out that like it is a little weird that at least Zach knew that they grew a garden in the insignia up there, the communicator. What's it called? The Delta.
The Delta.
The Delta Burke.
The Delta Burke. Yes, there's Delta Burke running around on the. I don't remember. I don't remember.
Women. All right.
What's happening?
Keith, should we go back and watch Designing Women? Keith and Mike watch Designing Women.
Hard pass.
What's that poster?
Oh my God.
Shall we?
Can we give some ratings?
You get some stamps. Hell yeah, they are self-sealing. Here are some stamps for you.
For as much as we kind of hemmed and hawed about a lot of this, I had a pretty good time with it. I thought there was a little bit of redundancy, but I'm starting to let myself enjoy the episodic nature of it. And this was another cool way to get us off world and show off the cool tech. And I thought maybe you would appreciate that we got the kind of Stone Age aesthetic without the sort of nonsensical trappings and plot of like high fantasy like forced upon it. I felt like we got to avoid that we did last time, and we were able to use it as an aesthetic, right? And what was cool about this one is that for all of the wormholes we poked out, which were mostly scientific ish, that the sort of esoteric philosophical questions asked here were pretty powerful. And the ones I like wrestling with, the human experience is one fraught with a lot of paradox and fraught with a lot of pain and suffering. And if you could, I guess they didn't have any agency in the choice, but if that could be removed, if you could forget it and forget the reasons why you're feeling that, maybe that would be better, or maybe not. And I thought this was an interesting way to, and it was also a cool way to have some of the characters recognize some integral parts of their identity that maybe of their id, as you said, that they perhaps hadn't really examined before. I think it was a good moment for Ortega, who has been kind of not present in a lot of the recent episodes, and I think even Pike, same, who hasn't been present in a lot of recent episodes.
That's true.
Had a moment there as he was gaining his memories back, realizing he's not that angry dude just beating the dude up, that he is a leader and his job is to help Zach out, get him back, and to get himself back and his crew back safely. And there was some cool moments there. All in all, I enjoyed my time with it. I still feel like it would have been benefited from like one more pass in the edit room maybe. But we got a great guest star with a great grounding. You know what's becoming comical also is they need to tell Spock to stop doing push-ups. His pecs are getting comically large. Like his suit can't even hold them anymore.
But Mike, his name is Ethan Peck.
Too bad.
It's not like Ethan like normal flabby chest. It's Ethan Peck.
Well, I mean, fair, but it's
not like me, like Ethan B Cup.
But look, I think at the end of the day, the question asked, the conversation spurred, is good. It's not just like a fun romp. There's some deeper meaning there, and I think you'll probably maybe take a little more exception with some of the writing, and I'll let you talk about that. But I think all in all, I liked it enough. I think it's a solid B for me. So a solid B says 81 self-sailing stem bolts.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I mean, I think this episode, it's fine. It's fine. Like it's not bad and it's not great. It's like, okay, yep, that's a pretty solid right down the middle episode of sort of classic Trek. It feels like a next gen episode in a lot of different ways. I think that here's the things that I liked. And one of the things that I like a lot about this whole series, and I think a lot of the contemporary Trek spends a lot of time dissecting how people are dealing with or not dealing with trauma. Mm-hmm. And so this episode is sort of exploring the concept of denial, exploring, the blocking things away and forgetting and the benefits and liabilities of doing that. And I thought that part of it was really interesting. I thought the philosophy that Reed Birney's character had was very interesting, and the way he articulated the freedom that comes from forgetting, the freedom that comes from denial, and then unpacking that a little bit and seeing the downside of that. I thought that was a really interesting thing to do, and how disorienting not knowing where you are, how traumatic that can be, and who you are, and how you adapt to that. If you had memory issues, how would you adapt to this, and what would you choose to remember versus not? Cool, interesting. I really liked that part of it. Stuff that I didn't like, I just felt like there was a lot of shortcuts taken in the writing. They had this cool concepts to play with, but they forgot to write a story that made any sense. What's happening on the ship doesn't really make a lot of sense. How Pike single-handedly takes down a friggin' castle, that doesn't make very much sense. And they should have like shortcut the whole thing. Like, don't worry about it. He did it. He's here with the king all by himself. And so,
or I can maybe solve that and our weapons wormhole.
Okay, let's hear it.
What if inside the castle, Keith, is the king and like 6 guards? We'd have to go back and look at the extras who played the people who got them in the beginning and the people at the end, because if there's only 6, there's only need a couple guns, and it was easy for him to beat them all up. Because remember, she says it's 6 on 3, we can easily take them.
Yeah, and so I could totally buy that there wouldn't be that many of them. However, the tower is like 50 stories high.
Yeah.
Like, are they just sitting there in this completely empty? I mean, like,
maybe.
How many people are in this think. I don't know, because we saw like 6 dum-dums out, like, breaking rocks for reasons beyond my understanding. And sawing wood that we saw used nowhere. And like, it's like, there's nobody there. There's like 15 people on the whole planet.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just like, and like they had a garden grow. What is this? So there's just a lot of, they needed another pass to like, okay, so here is our concept. Concept is there's something that causes people to forget, to forget everything outside of the day. And in this castle, they're protected. And how would they exploit each other? And what would you do with it? Okay, great concept. Now write an episode.
Yeah.
And they didn't do the second half of that.
Yeah. You're right.
But ratings wise, like, I didn't hate it. It was like, all right. So, fine. A fine episode of Star Trek. You get 79 self-sealing stem bolts.
I thought you were going to go a little lower, so okay, that's
it was fine. It was fine. Like, whatever. I've seen worse. Mike, tell folks, if you were like, hey, those guys, fine. I want to see some more of that. What would they do?
I would say it's above 1 star, at least.
Yeah, at least.
So if you're listening on your podcast services of choice, pop in and give us 2 stars. Just to counteract the average.
Somebody counteract that on Apple Podcasts, please.
We do all kinds of shows. They're all available on our YouTube channel. So if you like this one and you want some other ones, just check out the channel. Give us a like, give us a subscribe. It goes a long way. Any engagement on the channel really does help because YouTube goes out of its way to make sure you don't get any monetization. Also,
YouTube doesn't go out of its way to make sure we don't get money. It's Mike who's like, oh, let me just play copyright stuff every episode.
Sailing, take me away.
It's your fault.
Also, you got the
Patreon
Patreon we talked about before. You can help us out, be a producer on the show, get other kind of good stuff, and meet some cool people. Patreon.com/K&M. We do shows all week, every week, all the time. Get used to it. Put in your headphones, listen to us, do some house chores. Some people actually do that.
I know.
But that's all I have to say, Keith. Yeah.
All right. Well, we will see you back here next week with charades. That sounds like it's going to be fun. We'll see you back later. Till then, this has been Strange New Show. Keith and Mike watch Star Trek Strange New Worlds.
Thank you for watching K&M Entertainment
Podcast.
If you enjoyed our particular brand of nonsense, please like and subscribe. Or become one of our patrons at patreon.com/KNM.
I am Dude.